Following an era of extraordinary success in the 1960s, the Beatles' later recording sessions were increasingly marked by internal disagreements and creative conflicts. After ending their touring schedule in 1966, the group turned their attention entirely to studio work, seeking to push musical boundaries. However, tensions among the band members gradually began to surface. These strains became particularly evident during the production of the White Album in 1968. Each member sought to assert their own creative vision, and the atmosphere became so strained that Ringo Starr temporarily left the band. Reflecting on that period, Paul McCartney recalled that the sessions were filled with conflict and the band was on the verge of breaking up, which contributed to an intense and uneasy environment. The growing friction was largely attributed to differing artistic directions, as well as the frequent presence of Yoko Ono in the studio, which many believed disrupted the group's dynamic. The tensions persisted into the 1969 sessions for Let It Be, their final album, although the roots of the discord had taken hold during the previous year. Amid this troubled backdrop, one song recorded during that era seemed to echo the emotional state of the band, even though its subject matter was unrelated. Hey, Jude was recorded in July and August 1968 and released on August 26th as a standalone single. It became the first release under the Beatles' Apple label, arriving 3 months ahead of the White Album. Though officially credited to the Lennon-McCartney partnership, the song was composed by Paul McCartney at a time when both the band's internal dynamics and personal relationships were under strain. Originally titled Hey Jules, the song was intended to comfort Julian Lennon, John's son, during the difficult period following the breakup of his parents, John and Cynthia Lennon. Their separation in May 1968 stemmed from John's affair with Yoko Ono. Paul reportedly felt sympathy for Cynthia, who was no longer part of the group's inner circle, and even visited their home in Kenwood in June to check on her and Julian. In a 1997 interview, Paul shared that the inspiration for the song came from imagining himself speaking to Julian, encouraging him not to be overwhelmed by sadness and to stay strong in the face of his parents' divorce. He expressed his empathy for children caught in such situations, saying that he was trying to help Julian cope with something deeply painful. At that stage, John and Paul were no longer writing songs collaboratively. John was increasingly spending time with Yoko, and the two main songwriters were mostly working independently before sharing songs for final input. Paul introduced Hey Jude to John on July 26th, initially intending to remove the line, "The movement you need is on your shoulder." John, however, strongly advised against cutting it, believing it to be the strongest line in the song. Interestingly, John interpreted the song differently. He later claimed in a 1980 interview that he felt the lyrics were actually directed at him rather than Julian. He suggested that the timing of the song, shortly after Yoko entered his life, coincided with Paul encouraging him to pursue love, even if it meant leaving their creative partnership behind. John believed that, perhaps unconsciously, Paul was telling him it was okay to move on. Over the years, various alternative interpretations of the song have been proposed. Some speculated that the lyrics reflected Paul's own creative tensions with John, or were inspired by events in Paul's personal life. Author Mark Hertsgaard pointed out that many of the lines seem to speak more to an adult embarking on a powerful new relationship, particularly phrases like "you have found her," "now go and get her," and "you're waiting for someone to perform with." Music critic Tim Riley also analyzed the emotional layers of the song. He suggested that Hey Jude can be seen as a message of self-worth and emotional healing. According to him, Paul begins by offering comfort to someone else, but gradually begins to process his own feelings through the song. By the time he reaches the extended coda, the repeated refrains reflect a growing sense of personal affirmation and belief in himself.